So for folks who might not be aware about the CCNP, it's one of, let's say, Cisco's premium security certifications, or one of the premium certifications. Okay. So the main aim for today is to help you understand what the course really is, what it covers, what you are getting from the course, and what are the contents, what the certifications really look like from Cisco's perspective. And obviously, if you got any questions, please feel free to ask me. Okay. So um, just to give a little bit of background about myself. Um, so as Gaurav already pointed out, my name is Arun. I have been working in the industry for a little over 14 years, okay, maybe close to 15 years now. And my primary focus has always been enterprise security. Okay, there have been different names to it: enterprise security, infosec, cybersecurity, whatever you might want to call it. Okay, but yes, the focus has primarily been protecting the enterprises. Lately, obviously, the shift has been more to the cloud security aspect as well. So it's very easy for you to adapt cloud security once you are already working, on the enterprise side of things. So the CCNP security is, or basically covers, almost everything that Cisco has to offer from a security standpoint. Okay, so the portfolio that you're tested on, the CCNP security, is actually quite huge. Okay, I mean, Cisco has been in the security game for a very long time. If there are people who are old enough, they might have heard about the Cisco PIX firewall, which was the very first firewall that Cisco created, or they came out with. Right after that, they basically created the ASA firewall, which has been kind of like one of their hottest selling products till date. Okay, so they still sell ASA. There are still some use cases with respect to when and where you would implement ASA. Okay. Plus, on top of that, there are other areas in which Cisco is also present with respect to security. So the CCNP security, it is close to 5 to 6 months of content. Okay, and obviously sessions. This typically is going to be weekends only. Okay, so the same time that we are doing this session today, it's going to be around the same time. Um, Mostly, it is going to be at least 2 hours per session. Okay, since we have to cover so much content, I typically tend to keep my sessions anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so over the weekends, you can accept you can probably expect anywhere from 5 to 6 hours of sessions. That kind of gives you enough content to review over the week as well. And plus, obviously, there is, or it's going to be very hands-on heavy. Okay. Apart from the initial couple of sessions where I will talk about basic security concepts, cybersecurity concepts, just get you up and going with a lot of terminologies with respect to cybersecurity, info security, maybe handle some queries and concerns if someone might have, before we actually dive into the actual products. Okay. So it is going to be, obviously, you can call it live, instructor-led. Okay, and obviously it's going to be hands-on. And um, I kind of expect, or I would kind of expect everyone to be at the same level. Okay, and when I say at the same level, I don't expect anyone to be an expert in any of the products. If you are an expert with some of these products, some of these solutions, you have already worked with them, great. I'm pretty sure you will still learn something out of it. If there is someone who has, let's say, literally no experience with security itself. They might be from an enterprise background, an infrastructure background. Previously, we used to call it routing and switching. So if you're from that background and you are kind of trying to jump the fence and come over to the security side and try to learn um, all the things good and bad about security, then you're welcome. Okay. Like I said, I would be covering everything from scratch at a foundation level. Yes, I am not going to discuss and talk about um, CCNA level concepts. Okay, so that is something that I expect everyone to know about, right? So when I say, for example, if I say something like ARP, right, or when I say something like DHCP, I expect everyone to know what that really is. Okay, basic packet forwarding, right, routers, switches, things of those nature. Okay, so I'm not going to go into deep dive into those concepts. So that for me is going to be literally the only prerequisite that you have. Okay. Not really having a CCNA certification, really, but the very basic networking knowledge is all you really need. Plus, yes, you would need to put in some effort at your end as well to review the content, especially doing the labs. Okay. All right. So let's I've got some slides here, which I would like to just go over and talk about. So I've already talked about what I am, okay? Um, so I have worked with Cisco solutions for a long time now, and it's not just confined to Cisco really, okay? So I have worked with Palo, I have worked with Fortinet, I have worked with Checkpoint, and it has not just been security. I have done a lot of other things as well, right? So things like SD-WAN, maybe the newer talking terms that you hear and listen all about, things like SASE, right? Zero Trust, for example. So I have been working on those solutions and architectures as well. Okay, so I like to keep the sessions very interactive as well. Okay, and I expect the same thing from everyone else. Feel free to ask as many questions as you have, maybe from production perspective, or maybe from something that maybe you read or discussed, maybe with some colleague, or maybe in some documentations you might have read something and I would like to discuss it more. Maybe it didn't make sense to you the first time that you know, read through those things. All right. So that's about me. Now, why something like NP? Okay. First thing, there is no more CCNA security from Cisco. Okay. So Cisco has completely removed anything CCNA security. So there are only two things now, CCNP security and CCIE security, really. Okay. Now, the good thing about the content that we are covering here is it does prepare you for CCIE as well. Okay. Um, because the amount of content that we have and um, we have kind of aligned it with how the Cisco certifications and the exam topics and the blueprints are. So when you're going through the NP training, you are effectively also preparing yourself for CCI. Okay. Plus, there is no more CCI written now. Okay. So for people who are kind of old enough, previously Cisco used to have CCNA, then you would do CCNP. So this used to be a prerequisite. Okay. Even if you would do CCNP without doing the CCNA, they will not award you the certification, right? So this used to be, and then we used to do CCI written exam, which would make you eligible to sit for the CCI lab exam. Okay. This used to be the older way on how Cisco used to do the certifications. Now there is no more CCNA. And there is no more CCI written as well. CCNP now directly acts as a prerequisite for the CCI lab exam as well. Okay, and in a couple of later slides, I have it highlighted as well how the certifications really flow with respect to Cisco. But from an NP perspective, if you're preparing for NP, you do the IE. Plus, obviously, you are preparing yourself for the ongoing market crisis when I talk about security. Okay, so I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone knows we are doing cloud only or hybrids now. Okay, especially after the pandemic. Okay, so there has been an exponential growth in the amount of cyber threats that we have nowadays, especially because of cloud and the hybrid. Okay, so since the surface of the threats and the range of what was available to the attackers previously has now extended from, let's say, the organization's private data center to someone else's architecture, which is what basically cloud is. Okay, so the attack surface has increased. So there is obviously an exponential increase in the amount of attacks that we have daily. So obviously, there is market crisis right now for people who are knowledgeable in not just implementing, but also designing security solutions. Okay. Plus, the main criteria behind both the NP and the IE now is Cisco does focus a lot on design as well. Okay. So not just how you implement, let's say something like firewall, okay, but why and where as well. Okay. Why would you implement? Given a particular business scenario, for example, right? What are the pain points for an organization, right? What solution fits best for them? Where would you implement that solution? Okay, so all of these questions, they fall into that design category. Okay, and then so in my opinion, the implementation part is the easy part. Okay, you look at documentations and everything you can implement, right? But why are you implementing some things? Why are you implementing a particular feature? Why are you implementing a particular policy? That really is where the the whole lacking of expertise is there. Okay, so I during my sessions I do talk a lot about things like best practices, design related things, right? Why would you implement one thing versus the other? And then wherever possible, I also try to bring in comparisons with other vendors as well. Okay, so that kind of helps people relate. If you are maybe from, let's say, a Palo background, right? You're trying to also now work on Cisco and you're not able to make sense, I'll put that sense in. Okay, so I'll help you compare the differences and where maybe Palo is good, maybe where Cisco is good. Okay, and by doing that, you'll be able to correlate things much better. Another very important thing is compliance. Okay, depending upon where the organization is, okay, or where they are running their businesses, a lot of times they have to meet requirements, regulatory requirements. Failing to do so can cause hefty fines to be levied against the organizations. In some cases, we have seen the organizations had to shut down their businesses as well. Okay, so for example, if you have a business, if you have an organization, if you deal with any sort of data um, in European Union, you have to follow GDPR. Okay, this is EU's data protection regulation, right, which protects users and consumers' data. Okay, so if you are implementing a firewall, for example, in an organization that operates in EU and you are handling customer data within EU, there are specific requirements of how you would implement, design the firewall to cater and meet the GDPR requirements. Okay, how would you create policies, what features you can implement, what features you cannot implement. Okay, similarly, if you are dealing with anything with respect to finance or e-commerce, for example, okay, there's PCI DSS. If you're dealing with healthcare, for example, right, hospitals, clinics, you will have to make sure that your environment, your network environment meets HIPAA. All right. So compliance requirements are very, very important. Okay. And I do cover some of these aspects in the sessions as well. Okay. Just to give you a highlight on what some of these more common ones are and some of the others as well. So we discuss about ISO 27000. Okay. Talk about SOX, for example. Okay. I already mentioned HIPAA. It's GDPR, PCI DSS. Okay. There's also not regulatory compliance, but a framework, NIST, or maybe CSF. Okay. So these are very, very important, especially nowadays. Okay. So during the sessions, I'll basically um, help you understand what these are and how you can really bring yourself up to the mark with knowing some of these as well. Okay. Plus, if you appear for any interviews from, let's say, a cybersecurity perspective, okay, a lot of times you would see um, they require you to have knowledge of these compliance frameworks or regulations as well. Okay. Now, obviously, with CCNP Security, you do have an opportunity to take that big step in your career. Okay. Um, NP Security has been there forever, and it has not lost its value, to be honest. Now more than ever, because of how much security is required nowadays. Okay. So you can obviously, depending upon where you are positioning yourself and the amount of products and solutions and technologies and features that you get to know and understand with respect to CCNP security, you kind of open the doors for a lot of these job roles that might be available to you. Okay. A lot of times if or what I've seen across job boards, um, maybe let's say if you're applying for a position at maybe let's say Juniper, for example, okay, or something like a security consultant, right? They might have a requirement of you being a CCNP security at least. Okay, so they might not want you to be Juniper certified because I mean again, Juniper is not that popular in the security space. Okay, but what I'm trying to say is CCNP security has value across vendors. Okay, so if you have a CCNP security, it just makes that one step easier to get recognized. Okay, to get your kind of resume across. Okay, so I'm pretty sure everyone would have looked at lots of job opportunities, and a lot of times you would see NP security being a requirement as well. Okay, so different vendors, they recognize the value. And if you have a CCNP security, I mean, organizations think that you would know things from a security perspective, at least. Okay. Plus, obviously, I mean, I'm not gonna really go into and talk about all the packages and everything that you can get offered, but yes, I mean, it does open up doors, a lot of doors for you as well. Okay. If you're beginning your security journey, or maybe if you're experienced enough, if you're not certified yet, okay, it does really help. Okay. Any questions from anyone before I move on? And I mean, feel free to speak up, ask any questions, or you can also add your questions to the chat window. Okay. If maybe if you guys are shy enough to, not speak up.
Sir,
Yes.
hello. Does this CCNP also required in regulatory affairs in pharmaceutical?
Pharmaceutical would be healthcare itself.
Yeah, healthcare.
Right. Correct.
Is also applicable there also?
Correct. It absolutely is. Okay. Someone added a direct question to me. Does this from Javier? Does this course also teach you about Cisco IS? It absolutely does. Okay. So Cisco IS is a very critical component within Cisco's portfolio. Okay. And I do cover Cisco IS in a lot of detail uh, during the sessions. Okay. Okay, let's move on. How does a certification path look like? Okay. So, like I said, there's no more CCNA now. CCNP now requires you to do two certifications only. Okay. And when I say only, because previously, in order to do CCNP security, you had to do 5 exams. Okay. And each individual exam didn't really award you with any certification or any sort of credit, for example. You had to complete all 5 before you would be awarded CCNP security. Plus, you also had to do CCNA security as well. Okay, that's when you would complete that prerequisite as well, and you would be awarded the CCNP security. So a total of, let's say, 6 exams. Now, with CCNP, you just do 2 exams. Okay, one is a core exam, which is S core. And I don't remember the exact number. I think it's 350701. That's the exam code. Okay, so this is a mandatory exam, obviously. This exam basically covers everything with respect to Cisco security. The concepts, features, technologies, products as well. Okay, and in a moment I'll show you the blueprint as well, what products kind of looks like. In addition to that, once you have the S score, the good thing now with the certifications are anytime you do any certification, you get a certification as well. So what I mean by that is when you do the S score, when you pass the S score, you get a specialist certification. Okay, you get a specialist certification for security, Cisco Security Core. Okay, why it's called Core is because it is covering a lot of important and core technologies behind Cisco Security portfolio. Okay, so once you have this, you then will have an option to give one of the several available concentration exams. You can call them electives as well. And why we are calling electives? Because you can choose which exam you want to give. Okay, so this covers everything with respect to security. Cisco Security. Concentration exams are focused. And when I say focused, there is an exam for next generation firewall. There is a separate exam which is going to test you on Cisco ISE only. There is a VPN exam. There is a cloud and user protection exam. There is a security design exam. So now Cisco has given you the freedom of what you feel is better for your career, or maybe what you are trying to do currently, or what you handle more currently. Okay, so maybe let's say someone here works extensively with Cisco ISE. Okay, obviously having this exam or doing this exam and having the corresponding certification will be of more value to you. Someone else maybe does work a lot with VPN. VPN exam would be much better. Okay, or maybe you could also look at the design exam. Okay, so you are free to choose which exam you prefer, and that becomes your concentration exam. And that's why it's concentration. Okay, it concentrates on a particular product, and it really tests you on that product in a very detail. So the S score is going to test you on everything, but at a high level, it just skims the surface. That's tip of the iceberg, the S score. Okay. The next generation firewall exam or the ICE exam or the VPN exam, that's going to be the actual iceberg. Okay, so they're going to test you in a lot of detail, a lot of depth, right from the perspective of the design, deployment, implementation, troubleshooting of that particular product. Okay, so you do the S score, you do one of these elective exams, concentration exams, and you then become a CCNP security. So it's just 2 exams now, okay? So it's easier now. I mean, I'm not going to say it's easier, but from the examination perspective, the way you can choose your exams, that's easier. Cost is a factor now as well. Okay, so previously you do 6 exams to become CCNP security, now doing 2 exams, so you save a lot of money. Okay, so back in the day when you do 6 exams, I mean, and I have done it. Okay, so that's a lot of investment of money. Okay, so you're looking at close to, or we used to look at close to 2,000 US dollars plus taxes to go from CCNA security all the way to CCNP security. Taken the fact that you pass the exams the first time. Okay, if you don't, then obviously you'll have to pay again. Okay, so that used to be kind of like the combined cost to NA and NP back in the day. Now, I think it's somewhere around 700, 800 US dollars for both the exams. Okay, so that's a significant reduction in cost as well. Okay, plus now the exams are much more focused on products and solutions as well. All right. The good thing here is, again, like I said, anytime you do a certification now with Cisco, you get some credit to it, you get some certification. So for example, if you choose, let's say, the ICE exam, when you pass that, you get a specialist certification here as well. for identity management. So when you do your CCNP security, you are basically going to be awarded 3 certifications. One for the S-Core, which is the specialist. One for the concentration exam, whatever you do. Okay, each one will give you a specialist certification, 2, and then the actual CCNP as well. Okay, so there are now 3 certifications for you to earn. And you are not just confined to one elective. Okay, so you can give additional electives as well. Okay, so maybe you work with next generation firewall, you work with ICE. Okay, VPN is always important. Okay, plus you also want to do design. So you can do all 4. Each one will give you a specialist certification. Okay, so you can do as many or as little as you want with respect to the concentration exams. All right. Questions, anyone? Okay, so I think it might be quite easy now to understand how the paths and everything really is. And this is literally the same way that the that other Cisco certifications also are, be it wireless, be it enterprise, be it anything. Okay. Uh, Now, before I move forward, um, and before I talk about the topics and everything that we will discuss, let me just show you the blueprint really of what it looks like from Cisco's perspective, the certifications. Okay, just to give you an idea of what certifications now really look like. Okay, so I already have this open up. Okay, and let's look at the exams and training. Okay, so just what I discussed a moment ago, you passed the core exam. Okay, here are the details for it. So it's $400. And you then have the freedom to choose your concentration exams. Okay, so each concentration exam is $300. So that's around 700. If you have to do taxes, about 750, 760, 770. Okay, so 700 to $800 complete your certification. Okay, so these are your concentration exams. They each one, like I said, gives you or awards you a specialist certification as well, and each one focuses on a separate component or a separate product, separate solution within the Cisco security portfolio. So for example, this focuses on next generation firewall or Cisco firewalls only. This focuses on ICE. These two focus on content security. Okay, so this is ESA, email security. This is WSA. This is Cisco's proxy, web proxy, WSA. This is your VPN exam. This here is security automation. This one focuses on cloud and user protection. This here is the design exam. Okay, so whichever you feel comfortable with, or which one you feel will be more valuable for you, you could do those exams. Okay, in my exam, in my opinion, the ones that I recommend to choose if someone would kind of ask me, obviously firewall, ICE, VPN. Okay, and I mean all three of these have value nowadays: automation, cloud user protection, and design as well. Okay, but if you just have to choose the three, so these three would be kind of like the pick or my pick. Okay, someone has a question. Um, these certifications are still have validity of 3 years and will have to follow the renewal path to keep it updated. Absolutely, they do. Okay, so each certification has 3 years of validity. Okay, um, but now if you guys are not aware, Cisco also does a lot of CE credit based renewal as well. Okay, so you can choose to redo the exams, or you can choose to take courses from Cisco, their authorized courses. You can buy them from them and earn credits to that. And those credits can then be used by you to renew your certifications. So, for example, if you already have a CCNP, you need 80 credits to renew. Okay. Um, some courses that Cisco has, for example, they kind of give you a variety of different credits. And Cisco also does nowadays their RevUp program, where they give you free access to trainings. And using those trainings, you can earn these credits. So I think there is one that's already going on right now. So if you go to Cisco U, okay, somewhere on there you would see a RevUp cert, and they would have mentioned what training is currently available that you can view freely and how many credits you can earn. Okay, so it's very easy for you to renew the certifications, Cisco certifications now as well. Okay, you're not just limited to every time 2 certifications. Okay, so still has 3 years of validity, just like before. All right, what else? What are the questions? Okay, so let's just view a couple of exam topics, couple of blueprints I want to show you, just to show you a comparison between what the core exam covers plus what some of these concentration exam covers. Okay, so it'll kind of give you an idea what the exams really get you into. Let's just view the exam topics for a score, for example. Okay, so right off the bat, you can see from S-Core's perspective, Cisco wants you to understand security concepts. They want you to understand network security, cloud security, content security, endpoint security, visibility as well. Okay, so this is, again, tip of the iceberg. Okay, they are expecting you to know literally everything. but you're not tested very deep or very in-depth across uh, these technologies. Okay, but you need to know. Okay, so when we talk about EDR, endpoint protection and detection, they expect you to know secure endpoint. Okay, from content security perspective, they expect you to know WSA, ESA. Okay, secure in the cloud, they might expect you to know things like umbrella or maybe Duo, for example. Okay, from network security perspective, next generation firewall, obviously, maybe ICE, right? Doing AAA, Radius. Here, they might want you to know NetFlow, encrypted traffic analytics, StealthWatch. Okay, so it runs quite wide, the S-score. Okay, but again, the good thing about S-score is you will understand what Cisco has to offer across the board. Okay, whether you're dealing with cloud, whether you're dealing with visibility, whether you are dealing with network security, whether you're dealing with endpoint security, user protection, you would know those product solutions. Okay, why would you choose them? Obviously, within the S-score, they don't you or they don't want you to know everything in detail, right? So they wouldn't want you to know in depth about all the engines that run within the WS ESA, but you should still know what WS and ESA really is. Okay, this is what the S score is. And if I just show you a couple of topics here, for example, within security topics, they want you to know a lot of things with respect to the attacks, both from on-prem perspective and from cloud perspective as well. Okay, what certificates are, and anything with respect to cryptography, very important in security. Cryptography or PKI. Okay, they want you to understand what VPNs are, security intelligence, okay, APIs. And again, if you're going to look at the topics, all of them are explain, compare, describe. They are not configure or implement or troubleshoot. Okay, so anytime you go through Cisco's blueprint or exam topics, always look for these keywords that begin with those lines. Anytime you see an explain or a describe or a compare or an interpret, okay, that typically is going to be more of a theoretical question. Okay, they would kind of want you um, to know what it really is, what it really means. Not necessarily, they don't expect you to implement or configure or troubleshoot. Okay, so and similarly, if we look at, let's say, network security, or maybe let's say security in the cloud. Okay, here as well, if you're going to see there are lots of identify, compare, describe, there's only one implement or one configure. This is where they would want you to know how the product really will be configured. The rest, they really want you to be able to know it theoretically. Okay, this is what the S score really is. Okay? And obviously, you guys are feel free to, and add this to the chat window so that, if you guys want to, you can maybe save this, read through it later on, maybe go through the exam topics yourself if you want to. Okay, so we are just touching the tip of the iceberg. Okay, network security, again, lots of compares, describes. Okay, there are some configures, implements, configures here as well. This is again from the perspective of network security. Okay, you implement things from the perspective of protecting the infrastructure. So that's layer 2 protection, layer 3 protection, implementing firewall, right? Protecting the management plane. This is where you can implement something like ICE. Okay, then there is VPN. So a lot of this comes under the portfolio of network security. Okay. Content security, like I said, this talks about web proxy. Okay, that's secure email, uh, cloud email security, web, that's your ESA and WSA. Okay, so this really goes into how can you implement email security features. This also talks about umbrella, for example. Endpoint is your EPP and EDR, the secure endpoint solution. Last one here goes into some of the other products as well. I'm pretty sure a lot of you might not have heard about some of these products, won't have even worked with a lot of these products. Okay, but the good thing is if you're going to look here, describe, right? Describe the components, capabilities, benefits of using some of these products. They don't expect you to know how to implement it or troubleshoot it. Okay, so some of these I do cover in the sessions. So for example, when we'll go through ICE, we cover this. PX grid. Okay, when we talk and discuss about, let's say, something like umbrella, we discuss this. When we talk about things like VPN, or maybe when we'll talk about NetFlow, for example, we'll cover this, 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 and this as well. Okay, so just by looking at the S score, you can probably imagine how much Cisco expects you to know, not in depth again, but still expects you to know. Okay, especially from a product portfolio perspective, feature perspective, solutions perspective, right? Now, in comparison, if we look at one of the concentration exams, let's say firewall. Okay, so in S score, you also have, or you would also be tested on firewall in network security. But here's a single line which we have for firewall. Access control policy, application visibility and control, URL filtering, malware, etc., and then obviously VPN. Okay, this is technically the only thing that you would see in S score for firewall. Now, if you look at the firewall exam, in concentration exams, you would see less of describes and explains. Maximum number of times you would see things like implement, configure. Okay, so implement firewall modes, implement next generation IPS modes, implement high availability. Configure system settings, configure policies. They expect you to now be able to configure and troubleshoot different policies, configure different features, configure objects, configure devices. There's a management and troubleshooting section as well. Troubleshoot the management web UI and CLI, configure dashboards and reporting, troubleshoot using various tools, be able to analyze reports, also understand integrations. And you can see these integrations have configure as well, implement as well. Okay, so concentration exams are very focused. They will expect you to know that particular product in detail. Okay, so they would expect you to know policy configuration, integrations, deployment, management, and troubleshooting. Okay, so when we are going through our sessions, that's what the goal really is, to help you prepare for both S-Core as well as the concentration exams as well. Okay, so that you basically are free to choose what your NP security path is going to be, because everyone will have a different NP security path. Okay, S-Core is going to be the same for everyone. That's a mandatory exam. Everyone will have to do that. Concentration exams will depend on a per individual level, for example. Okay, so what I typically cover during the sessions are all the important concentrations. These ones. Plus, in addition to this, we do discuss umbrella, DNS security, and SASE as well. Okay. Some of these other things we kind of do discuss them, but it's kind of intertwined between the other topics and concepts. Okay. So these two are new exams. For example, the cloud and user protection and the design. Design is even newer. Okay. It recently came out. When I'm covering and going through the aspects of the S core and these concentrations, I do cover the design aspects as well. Okay. Cloud and user protection, I don't cover it in too much detail because all of these, they are typically SaaS-based solutions. Okay. It's very difficult for you to do labs for them because they are subscription-based. Okay. I do cover some aspects. For example, I do cover umbrella. Okay, just to help you understand what the product is, how it works with SASE, how it works with DNS security. Okay, so I do cover it, sure, but you won't be able to do any labs for it. Because again, I mean, I don't have access to um, evaluation-based labs for SASE solutions. Rest everything that you see here, okay, we should be able to do labs for it. We do have the lab set up. And wherever or whatever features might not be possible in, let's say, when the product is in evaluation mode, I'll highlight that. Okay, so it's the amount of content that we are covering. That's why this basically runs for about 5-6 months. Okay, it could be more as well, depending upon how much we are covering. Um, there, there are times where, you know, I don't take sessions. Maybe we don't have enough people turn up. We don't take sessions at that point in time as well. But give or take, 5-6 months is a very viable time. The maximum amount of time that's taken, it's by these two modules. Followed by VPN, These ones take the least amount of time. Okay. Someone didn't post a question. I forgot to mention that. Does the code exam speak on zero trust? Because it is starting to become big within the government space in the States. We absolutely talk about zero trust. Okay. Um, Again, good question. The ZTNA aspect, zero trust network access, or ZTNA, zero trust architecture. Very important, not just in the government space, but literally everywhere. Okay, there are some products within Cisco spaces, not Cisco spaces, but Cisco um, portfolio, which directly align with ZTNA. For example, ICE, Duo. Okay, so when we will be covering these solutions, talking about these products, you would kind of understand what, why of zero trust, first thing. Okay, and what are the products? What are these products really doing to implement zero trust? All right. Okay, I've been talking for pretty long time. Um, any questions? Can you give a lab overview? I might be able to. Okay, towards the end, I'll show you the different topologies and everything that we have because I currently have um, another, let's say another batch that we are running for NP security weekends in the evenings. Okay, so I do have the topologies for that, which those folks are using and utilizing for doing the lab. So towards the end, I'll show you the lab. Okay. All right. So let me just jump back to my slide. Okay. So that's about the path. Okay. And obviously we have, or I have already talked about the content. Okay. But this is all that you can expect from the sessions. Okay. And some things are not mentioned here. Okay. So things like cloud security, umbrella, ZTNA, those sort of things, I do cover them. Okay. Um, what else you see here is what you get plus additional. Okay. So I literally don't restrict myself from giving out whatever knowledge that I have with respect to security. And again, I kind of welcome if anyone has any issues with maybe something ongoing with a production piece. You want to discuss some things which you might have implemented in your environment. You don't really understand why that has been implemented, or uh, whether you should keep it, not keep it, etc. Right? So feel free to um, discuss that during the session as well. Okay, so we cover the core security concepts. This is this is literally going to be the most boring part. Why? Because this is going to be a theoretical only thing. Okay, this is where I help you understand the various terms, terminologies, pronunciations with respect to security in general. Okay, help you understand what cybersecurity is, what InfoSec is, uh, lots of different terms with respect to attacks, remediations, mechanisms. Uh, this is where we cover things about the compliances and the regulations and things of those nature. Okay, so no labs in here, just theoretical things. One thing is plus is I don't use slide decks. I don't use presentations. Okay, because that kind of kills the whole vibe behind learning. Okay, I don't want to do I don't want to do death by PowerPoint or death by presentation. Okay, so I don't want to bore you guys out. So my sessions are typically going to be whiteboarding only. Okay, so whiteboards only plus hands-on. All right, this is going to be where the theoretical piece is. After this, so this typically maybe you can take this to let's 2 weekends. Post that, it's going to be purely hands-on. Okay, so we cover about network access, VPNs. Okay, now this is where we discuss VPNs both from the perspective of Cisco firewalls plus Cisco routers as well. Okay, so we will be covering from VPN perspective lots of things. Okay, obviously your basic site-to-site VPN and remote access VPN, that's there. Plus some of the other VPNs which you might not have worked with or even heard about it. Okay, so we talk about DMVPN, Flex VPN. Okay, so VPN is again, and VPNs are essential. This is tied to your SVPN exam. Plus, you also need to know it from S-Core as well. VPNs are important everywhere, be it Cisco, be it Palo, be it Fortinet, be it Sophos, anywhere. You do SD-WAN, you need VPNs. Okay, you do hybrids, you need VPNs, IPsec. Okay, so VPN is one such knowledge that if you understand how IPsec works, how VPNs work, you literally can implement it anywhere for any solution. Okay, so that's why I kind of said that it is also an important technology for you to understand. I skipped this, but this is where we discuss ICE, we discuss AAA, various protocols that go into AAA, and there are a lot more to ICE. Okay, things like profiling, posturing, BYOD, EAP, obviously 802.1x or .1x is a very important piece. Okay, PX grid. Firewalls and IPS, already mentioned, this is where we discuss next generation firewall. So we discuss two firewalls, or I discuss two firewalls, always. We start off with discussing ASA, and then we discuss Cisco's FTD, which is the next generation firewall. Okay, so the reason for covering ASA is because the FTD has evolved from ASA. So when you understand the ASA, I also help you understand how the evolution happened. Okay, and some things in the next generation firewall, they work very similar to how they used to work in ASA. Okay, so it really helps you to grasp things and understand things really at the foundation level. Really, the whole reason of doing that is to help you things understand at that foundation level. Okay, content security. This is where WSA and ESA is. We discuss web proxy and we discuss email security. So if there are people, and I'm pretty sure that there would be a lot of you who would have not worked with SMTP or maybe IMAP, for example. Okay, so that's your simple mail transfer protocol, right? So we understand how that works and how a product like ESA protects your email environments. Endpoint protection. This is where secure endpoint is. Again, this is a SaaS-based solution. I do take maybe 1 or 2 sessions for it just to help you understand what the product is, what the positioning is, um, where you would need it, okay, what the competitions are, competitiveness is. Apart from that, again, we won't be able to do the labs for it because it is a SaaS-based. Okay, so some of this plus some additional things which I've already mentioned. Cloud security, umbrella, SASE, we do cover that. Plus, there's NetFlow, visibility aspect, network visibility aspect, Stealth Watch that we will be covering as well. Okay. Some of the things, some of the trending technologies, if you would say, with respect to, let's say, CCNP security or maybe security in general or secure environments in general, is obviously your firewall, Cisco Secure Firewall, Cisco's next generation firewall, yep, ICE, absolutely, Zero Trust Architecture or ZTA, Umbrella, automation and API. I will cover some aspects of automation and API as well, but again, this is not really going to be a scripting session. Okay, otherwise, I mean, it will take us forever to complete CCNP security. Okay, so automation is really not what we are concentrating in here. Okay, but wherever needed, wherever necessary, I'll give you some tidbits of how the automation piece really functions, what you can do to, maybe get some more from the automation aspect. And then secure SD-WAN. So like I said, SD-WAN is nothing but it's a full mesh VPN environment when you implement SD-WAN. Okay, so you should understand IPsec, you should understand certificates, you should understand PKI, you should understand how VPNs operate. Okay, so and especially when we'll discuss SASE, SD-WAN comes into picture as well because it is a core component of a SASE architecture. Okay, so we will discuss that as well. Lab environment, I'll just show you the lab environment towards the end. Okay, but obviously we would be going over VPN labs, firewall labs, ICE labs. Okay, and all of these labs are and topologies are really focused, and I've tried and created them as close to real world environments as possible. Okay, so you would be setting up basic IP addressing, maybe VLANs, try to do multi-VLAN routing or inter-VLAN routing, okay, implement policies, etc. Okay, that's what has been the goal behind creating the lab and the topologies. Okay, this is just to give you an understanding of what the prerequisite really is, okay, for the CCNP security. Okay, so you should know things like, again, what transport protocols are, difference between TCP and UDP. If someone asks you basic NAT, what NAT really is, do you understand VLANs? Do you understand how packets flow through the environment, right? That's where I call about packet forwarding, how ACLs work. Okay, you can ignore the VPN aspect, but if you already know what IPsec is, great. Okay, after the NP, for example, and this is really from the perspective of when you are going through that interview preparation phase. Okay, so once you complete the NP security, and when you have that NP security on your resume, and when you are trying to give your interviews, etc., some of the things which you can expect your or you can be questioned on in interviews. What AAA is, ICE functionality, things of those nature. How do you deploy ICE? Okay, what is an ICE cube, an ICE cluster? How do you upgrade ICE? Okay, encryption, what do you understand by symmetric, asymmetric encryption, differences between them, firewall technologies, okay? So the very basic things. And obviously, the questions can get more complicated depending upon what sort of experience you highlight within your resume. Okay, so key thing here is to understand that what best prepares you or what best readies you is hands-on. Okay, and that's what really the goal behind is to have as much hands-on practice as possible. Okay, and one thing here that's very aptly highlighted, one thing that I do call out always during the sessions is, okay, people who don't understand this, that's fine. I'll cover this during the security concepts aspect. Okay, but when you're doing any sort of security design, implementations, troubleshooting, etc., this is one thing that you have to understand. Okay, everything revolves around it. Whether the feature, the product, the solution that you're trying to implement, does it cater to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of the data? Okay, so we do discuss that extensively during our sessions as well. Okay. All right, cool. So that really is what the session really has to offer. Okay, obviously my expertise, okay, the amount of technologies and products and solutions that we will be covering, plus, like I've mentioned, it is hands-on only. Apart from a couple of weekends where I kind of prepare people who, let's say, are very new to security, they don't really have any experience in security. Those 2 weekends are specifically meant for those folks. Okay, I'm not saying people who are experienced in security should not or will not gain anything. I'm pretty sure you'll gain some knowledge out of those 2 weekends as well, where we just cover some basic general cybersecurity concepts. Okay, so that's what all I had to discuss to give you a high-level picture, an overview of what to expect, right? What you are getting yourselves into, right? So I'm going to pause here, take any questions if anyone has. Any concerns, any questions, any queries, anything that didn't make sense, anything additional that you would have expected. Yes, this is a weekend course. Okay, so 2 to 3 hours every weekend. I mean, not every weekend, every day weekend. Okay, so that's basically close to 5, 6 hours over the weekend. Then you basically get the week to review the content, go through the labs yourself. Okay, follow along with me, doing the labs, getting the hands on it. All right, guys, come on, let's ask some questions. No one has any questions?
Hello.
Yes.
So, yeah, thank you, Arun, for explaining each and everything in detail. So, I have the one question that you have mentioned about the course detail. So
Yes.
nowadays, the Cisco is moving towards to the cloud-based platform. So I was asking that uh, do we have the Cisco Secure Access and
No,
EDR and XDR?
no.
Okay,
So
thank you.
again, those are SaaS based
No.
pieces. Okay, something like secure access or XDR. I mean, obviously have a cost behind it. Okay, so you literally cannot get evaluation or even um, trial tenants for them. Okay, for something like, let's say, Umbrella or something like Duo, I'll
Mm.
still walk you through on how you can get trial accounts. 15-day, maybe 20-day of trial account if you want to, play around with them.
Yep,
Okay?
yep.
But with something like XDR, with something like secure access, you cannot. However, if if some of you work with, let's say, Cisco partners, okay, directly work for Cisco partners, then you could have access, or you might have access, or I should say you should have access to Cisco D Cloud. Okay, so if you have access to Cisco D Cloud, then that's where you can get access to a lot of these products which are otherwise not available to the rest of the public. Okay, there are labs there which has secure access, which have XDR and things of those nature. Okay, and that's also one of the reasons, if you would have noticed in the blueprints, you don't really see a mention currently of XDR or for secure access. Okay, because obviously, I mean, if you cannot have access to it, you cannot do labs for it, you will typically not will be able to um, ramp up on those technologies. Okay, so currently they are not testing you on those as well, but yes, the market trend and the future trend is typically that most of everything is kind of moving towards the cloud security because of having cloud environments, hybrid environments, etc. Okay,
Yep, yep. Thank you.
sure. Anyone else? Yes, I'll show the lab access and the topology in a moment. If once I take questions. Okay, no questions. All right. Let me just before I end it, let me just show you the lab. And just give me a moment. I'll just share my screen back. So from a lab perspective, everyone will have access to um, these racks which are running over EVE-NG. Okay. So for example, this is one of the topologies which we are doing currently from a next generation firewall perspective. Okay. So everyone gets access to the same topology. You are free to create or get your own topologies created as well if you would want to, but that is something that you won't be able to do directly. You will have to connect with the support team, let them know what topology you want, and they will create it for you. Otherwise, you basically have access to everything that you see in the topology, from the firewall to the infra routers that we have, servers. If we have the labs have internet access so that you can troubleshoot, or sorry, not troubleshoot. You have access to internet so that you can implement and see how different policies work, especially from perspective of firewalls, right? Where you have to implement things like URL filtering or maybe application visibility. You want to see how things work of those nature, do content security. Okay. So from component perspective, you get access to everything. The labs are available to you of its 24/7. Okay. So, and you would be setting these up from scratch. Really. So nothing is pre-set up for you. Okay. So you get literally hands-on here. So this is one of the topologies. And this is the one that we use for ASA, or I have used for ASA, or I use for ASA. Okay, so quite an extensive topology. This kind of does help me to explain and go through everything that ASA has to offer. Okay. Anytime any sort of topology changes, I kind of keep updating the topologies. Okay. So new features come out, older features become obsolete. I remove those things from the topology and I update them. Okay. So anytime you would have access to, you will get access to updated topologies. Okay. So this is typically going to be the first module, this ASA, and then the other topology that I showed you for next generation firewall. This is the first module that I always cover, firewalls. So this is what this topology looks like. And then I'll just show you a couple of more here. So I'll show you one for ICE as well. Okay, this is not the correct topology. Let me see here. We have several topologies for VPN. Okay. So again, like I said, everyone gets access to these pods, these racks, individual access. Okay. You don't share the racks with anyone. Okay. The topologies are there. I go through the topologies during the sessions, setting up. Then you get a chance to follow along, either review the videos during the week, follow along, set up as and what I do in the lab. And then obviously you can come back again and then redo the topologies from memory. Okay, do the configuration from memory just to help you understand and give you more hands-on. And then obviously you can get your own topologies created as well. Okay, questions? Um, so yeah, can you be can you please speak a bit louder? I can't understand
Yeah.
really.
Am I audible now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. So, if I'm the part of this course, so do I have had the access to all this technology?
Yes, you have.
And so, I think the CCNP is also. So, just one more question.
Yes,
Which are the topics we are covering in this field? All this we will get the hands on, right?
correct. Everything that you see, all the topics that we have covered, it's purely going to be hands-on.
We will get that
I didn't catch that, sorry. There's a lot of
so
disturbance in the background
now,
as well. So
yeah. Am I audible now?
yes, better now.
Yeah. So what I'm asking, if I means will be the part of it. So whichever the topics you are covering in this course, all are the part of the lab as well. Means I can
Correct.
consider it as well.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Correct. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Arun, Ramesh here. Out of curiosity, are you covering the remote access VPN part on FTD as well? Because ASA is going to obsolete,
Yes, we will.
Yeah.
We'll cover that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay, so Arun,
Ye-
I have the one question, and really it might be the out of the box. But I'm asking that are you taking the weekend batch, which is going to start from today regarding the ASA and FTD?
Um,
That batch is gonna start in the evening, 6:30. I think one or two session left. Arun, I think if I'm not wrong, for the ESCO.
oh, okay, he's going to be part of that. Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Yep. So I take that in the evening. Yes. So
Yep,
I'll see you in the
great.
evening. Yep.
Actually, I'm the
But we
part of that batch.
taking batches
Okay.
on weekend, Saturday, Sunday morning, like 11 a.m. and one more batch in the week on the weekend evening, 6:30 p.m. IST. And in the evening batch, we are gonna finish this ESCO and FTD. We are gonna start. So if in case somebody already familiar with ESCO and all, the person can join for that batch also.
Okay. Any other questions, anyone?
Yeah, Arun, I'm having one question on the books regarding the reference book or material for CCNP security. Do you have
I'll
any
t-
suggestions?
yeah, I
Yeah,
typically share that during the session. Do you want me to share it now?
that's fine. If you're going to share in the session, that's fine.
Yeah, I typically do share the reference books in the session, which you can access and kind of study along and read along as we are going through the um, training.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Okay. What else? Anyone else?
Hi sir, Aditya here.
Yes.
Basically, in CCNP, this kinds of lab we are doing in PNet lab or something other applications we have
It's
required in
EVE-NG.
this.
It's EVE-NG.
Okay.
So the same
Does
thing as PNet. Yes.
does it supports in normal laptops or we will need upgradation?
No, Aditya, you don't need
No.
to do anything because we have our own labs. It's just that it's a browser for you. We are gonna give you the link and user ID password 24/7. Anytime you can log into the server and you'll start practices.
Yeah, and whatever you are using about firewalls, next generation firewalls, and switches, and what is this router and all. We can get access through directly from them, or we have
Yes,
to
correct. Under
download or
you
move a
can
stream
see
something.
in the lab, we can see the router is also part of labs. Switch is also there. Firewall is also there.
Okay.
Everything
Oh,
under this one lab.
okay. And GUI access about switches and router directly, or mobile stream something like that.
Which
Application
access
is
you are asking?
required. Access for firewall and other things to do coding in I mean commands to type commands on that.
Everything is in this lab only.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. So guys, how many of already enrolled? Can you raise the hand? Because I can see as per my data, I think 7, 8 people already enrolled. So what I'll do, I'll create a one group also, Discord group basically from next class onward, so that we all can communicate. And the people who is planning to join, they can reach out to your counselor, or I'm sharing my number. 1 minute, let me check. So this is my number and my name is Gaurav, and any issue, anything during the classes and all, you guys can reach out to me directly. Okay. And if in case somebody is planning to enroll, they can contact their counselor or they can contact me also if counselor is not assigned to you. So we are closing the session, guys. Thanks, Arun sir.
Thanks, guys. See you during the sessions.